Hello, good evening, everybody. Oh, I got a baby here. Welcome to Wrestleview Live number 111. I'm Mike Tedesco, soon to be joined by Jerome, Wilen, and Roy Nemer, calling in live from Montreal. Introducing also our latest co-host here to Wrestleview. She's home with us, Emmeline. Anne-Marie is here. And I do have to say, the only reason she's on this show is since she's been born, the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber have happened, and I think that ever since she's been born, wrestling pay-per-views have been good. So I don't know. I think we all have to just thank Emmeline for that. So thank you, honey. All right, take this child away from me, please. I am joined here by our very dear friend, our incredible reporter for Wrestleview.com. He does amazing work every day. He's finding news and posting stuff online. It's not easy to write up stories and post and this guy does it really, really well. His name is Jerome Wilen. Jerome, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm well, thanks. And how are you doing?
Doing good. You know, I feel like I watched it's another show I watched that I didn't feel like I wasted my time. So
no, it had a big main event feel to it.
I don't feel like sometimes like you watch these shows and you're just like, well, there's 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. And then sometimes you watch these shows and you're like, wow, I'm really, really happy that I watched that show. You were watching tonight. You don't always get a chance to check out these premium live events, but what were your thoughts on Elimination Chamber tonight, Mr. Wilen?
Overall, I thought it was a great event. It was usually I see Elimination Chamber as a throwaway pay-per-view or a premium live event throwaway, but no, tonight it just didn't feel like a throwaway event at all. It told good stories leading into WrestleMania. I think we'll probably talk about that later on with Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. And then I had my own thoughts with the ending of the main event with Kevin Owens. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. My own thoughts of where that's leading to with WrestleMania.
Yeah. You know what? It's really an exciting time to be a fan of pro wrestling right now. It's for the first time in so long, you know, I kind of mentioned this on the Royal Rumble show, but tonight really kind of solidified that too. You know, we have like multiple viable WrestleMania main event quality storylines that are going on right now. You know, like this Sami Zayn thing tonight was just the reaction to him. I'm watching him. He's on right now in the post conference. He's fired up. The reaction, the feeling, the energy. It's just unlike anything I've seen in a long time. And I do have to say this, and I know, Jerome, you are a student of professional wrestling. This week we lost the great Jerry Jarrett. I got to tell you, this Montreal crowd, that kind of fire for what was going on in the ring and directed at one person who may not look like the stereotypical WWE superstar, reminded me a lot of, you know, some of those old classic Memphis wrestling tapes, you know, where, you know, it's kind of like the land of misfit toys. Not always the prettiest guys down there. Freddie Gilbert, he was good looking, but you know, big reaction for kind of like a guy that just feels like he's one of us. Yeah.
I mean, the reaction that Roman got was just unbelievable with the F you Roman chants, and I saw some middle fingers from some of the fans, and I was just I'm watching this thing on my couch just laughing because this is just great. It took me back to the 80s. It was great.
Yeah, it really felt like that, and I was like, wow, you know, like, you know, somewhere up in the great blue beyond, Jerry Jarrett must be smiling at the kind of heat that the champion got tonight. You know, it's like
Roman got huge heat. I loved it.
It really felt like something next level. You know, it's like, you know, I liken it back to a few years ago, like when Brock Lesnar come out, you know, like when he was still like, you know, like a real major league attraction. And not that Lesnar's not. Every time he comes back, it always seems to move the needle. But, you know, like, you know, it's like when he would come out, especially when he was on top, like the rest of the roster just really wasn't there. Like they had great people on the roster, but it was just like, well, we're watching a show, but when Brock Lesnar comes out, that's real. Like this felt like there was more at stake than just like, a title belt that's a prop on a television show. It really felt super, super important. Like this was like a major moment in time. Now, is that how WWE ran it at the end? Is that how it all played out? We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But before we can even start talking about that, let's say hello to everybody in the chat room tonight. We have a great rambunctious group in the chat tonight. We have Mr. Daniel Shell. We got Jamel of Eastside Reviews in with us. We got Mushoon Walls. We got the Wrestleview fiend Andrew Elder there. He's Andrew Elder was probably at some of those Memphis wrestling tapings back in the day. He's a big time. He's another student of professional wrestling there. We have the Wrestleview hype machine, Quentin Walters, and Randy Torcola, and Nafi Sadat, our dear friend, and King of Huecamundo, and a whole bunch of other, Brett Farmer. I'm sure Goosey's going to wind up here in a few minutes. Carlos Collins, a bunch of people. I'm just scrolling up now. I'm scrolling too fast, so I can't read. But it's King of Huecamundo. How? Let's see. I don't know what that means. But WWE dropped the ball. This was bad. That's what King of Huecamundo says. I see. Okay. Well, I mean, look, some of these shows are gonna, like some of what happened tonight is really going to, it's going to be. There's people are gonna have a lot of opinions about it. I certainly have my opinion. I'm sure Jerome, you have your opinion, and our other guests on the show also has an opinion. But this other guest on the show was also live in person at this event. He is Mr. Roy Nemer. Roy, can you unmute yourself?
I definitely could. How's it going, Mike? Hi, Jerome. Hi, everybody. I'm presently in my car, driving back from the Bell Center.
Wearing a seatbelt, and we're on speakerphone, so please, don't be worried.
I actually just got home, literally just got home. So I just parked. I'm still in the car. The heat's on because it's below zero, of course. But I don't know how much of it came off on television, but that crowd was so into it. Even before the start of the show. Yeah, even before the start of the show, around 7:15, 7:20 p.m. Eastern, you started to get the FU Roman chants. Which in my head, I'm like, okay, this is going to be quite some crowd. For me, the crowd made the event. For me, the crowd made the main event, and it made the entire event, because as good and as solid as that main event was, there were definitely some hiccups throughout the show, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. But that crowd, I think, just kind of made up for any down points throughout the show, in my opinion. The crowd was red hot.
Yeah, I agree with that. And during I was watching a little bit of the press conference before we went on the air, and Triple H even said, like, this show was great. He said he felt like everybody kind of, went out there and picked up and picked it up like they were doing, like their careers depended on it. Like they brought a little extra something. Maybe it's WrestleMania season. Maybe it's just because this crowd was just so hot and you don't want to disappoint. Not everything hit for this crowd. Not everybody was great, but Triple H did make a comment that said, like, when the crowd is the star of the show, you're doing something right. And really tonight, the crowd was just outrageous. There was a couple times where I'm just watching and I'm trying to recap, but I kind of just have to just sit and just watch and listen. I was getting goose pimples as it was going on at certain points, especially like the beginning of the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns match. What forget the entrances and the ring announcements and everything. Once the bell rang, I think it was about 4 or 5 minutes of them just standing there, and the crowd was just carrying the whole thing. Just chants of, Sammy and Ole and let's go Sammy and FU Roman and cheering, and just like Sami Zayn would move a muscle and they just go crazy. It reminded me a lot. A lot of people were you know, I would, you know, that night after WrestleMania 29, 10 years ago, I can't believe it. You know, that night that Dolph Ziggler cashed in, you know, it's always referred to as like one of the great WWE crowds of all time. But I honestly think that this Montreal crowd was even better. You know, they were alive for everything, even when something went wrong. You know, like for example, that Brock Lesnar Bobby Lashley ending was not that great, not even remotely creative. But as soon as Lesnar just started destroying people, they were like, "I love this again." Like, you know, like other crowds might have just sat on their hands for a bad ending or turned on it or whatever. But they were like, "All right, we got a crappy ending. Let's still have some fun anyway." Like we need to. They need to be playing more crowds like this. And somebody said tonight on Twitter when I was writing about the crowd that Montreal should be getting a PLE or premium live event every year because they're that great. I think, like, you know, they're going to go to England or whatever for Money in the Bank, but my God, Money in the Bank would be a solid event to throw to Montreal where something big, you know, could happen and stuff like that. So really just some great stuff. Awesome that you were there tonight, Roy. So what was it like? Like have you ever been a part of a crowd that was hotter than that?
The closest one I could think of was, and by the way, I do have to thank you, Mike, for convincing me to go to the show. I know that sounds crazy for anybody that's listening, but thank you for that. The closest show I could think of was, I can't remember the name of the paper. Is it Battleground, if I'm not mistaken? 2009 or 2008, something like that, 2010, where they did the screw job with the Undertaker.
Oh my God, I remember. Oh my God, yeah, because they have milked the crap out of the screw job. I mean, like they were showing tonight on like the history of Montreal that Ariel Helwani did or something like that.
Yep.
They showed like Hogan and The Rock from 2003. Of course, they showed Brett and Shawn, but Hogan and The Rock as well, where they redid the Montreal screw job. I was like, stop. And I was like, they better not do that tonight. That people will go nuts. Luckily, they didn't. But yeah, I forgot there was another screw job with the Undertaker there. Teddy Long did it, I think.
Yeah, it was Teddy Long. But that nothing like this, to be honest. I mean, another close second is last summer when they came and they had SmackDown here. And just the reaction that Sami Zayn got. It was an Intercontinental title match. And there you go. I think you guys can see me now. It was the Intercontinental title match, and Sami Zayn kind of left the match injured, and he came back, and the pop was ridiculous. And he came out at the end, but nothing like this, nothing like the main event whatsoever. I mean, you mentioned the bell rang, and for a good 3-4 minutes, no one moved. Zayn didn't move, Roman didn't move. The fans were going crazy with the Ole chants and the Sami chants and some chants in French. And finally, when one of them moved, like the crowd, a little section of the crowd started clapping, like, okay, we're actually going to have this main event. It was red hot. They knew what they were doing. You mentioned it on Twitter, Mike, the fact that Roman came out first. And I was thinking about that in my head. I'm like, is Zayn going to come out? And then they have Roman with like the biggest boos. By the way, Roman got the biggest boos I've ever heard. This was Shawn Michaels level in Montreal. But they did it well. You know, the ending was what it was. I don't know how many of us fully expected Zayn to win. But they milked it. They milked the crowd very well. And I don't know if this main event works in any other city or works as well in any other city as Montreal.
Montreal, you know, it's like everybody talks about those crowds, and you know, for like New York and you know, Chicago always gets, you know, like a great crowd. You know, Los Angeles, you know, sometimes. I mean, well, we'll find out at WrestleMania how good the crowd is at Los Angeles. But it's usually like, you know, Europe and, you know, maybe like a Texas crowd, like somewhere maybe like Dallas, I guess, or and Orlando now. Orlando seems to be turning into like a hotbed of pro wrestling because that's where basically WWE stationed now. Like those are like the major cities. Like when a show is at those are in those cities, it's like, okay, it's got to be a good show because this is a hot crowd. This is a hot territory. You want to, you know, put your best foot forward. It's like WWE in Madison Square Garden. Would you expect them to have like a lame, like, oh, let's just do like a throwaway SmackDown and do like a flag match or something like that? It's like, no, like you're going to have to pull out all stops. You know, like I think back to that Raw in July, like right after Vince retired, until he came back, unfortunately. Where it's like, oh my God, you know, like they're in Madison Square Garden, we're gonna pull out all the stops, and it was a phenomenal show. I still remember. I'm still talking about that Raw. It was that good. Montreal, it's you know, it's got to be. I right now nobody knows this that I'm doing this yet, but now I'm going to announce it, so now they will know. I'm doing some more retro WrestleMania recaps, and I last left off at WrestleMania 17, and I just finished recapping WrestleMania 18 and Hogan and The Rock, you know, in Toronto. Great stuff. My God, like what horrible, atrocious match. Like really, like even for a Hogan match, it was bad. But it doesn't matter because the crowd was just outrageous. But forget that one. The next night in Montreal for Raw, I had to go and watch that Raw after Mania. Wow, what a reaction! The 10-minute Hogan thing. I think Paul was there. I think that night, right? He was there when because that's the night Brock Lesnar debuted.
Yeah, I think Paul was there, and he'll argue till the end of time that that's not the biggest pop he's ever heard in his entire life.
I guess Bret Hart.
I mean, you know Paul. But yeah, no, Montreal, Toronto, Eastern Canada, actually maybe Canada in general, even when they go West Coast, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, it's hot crowds. It's hot crowds, and I'm surprised they came back so soon. Although storyline wise, I guess it makes sense, right? But I'm surprised they came back so soon after last summer.
I know. Well, you know what's interesting too is is this like one of the gifts from like the wrestling gods that they were in Montreal tonight, and it just so happened that Sami Zayn turned into like one of the hottest guys in their company, or was this like, or were they planning on making Sami Zayn one of the hottest guys in the company? Like, you know, I believe that like, you know, under Triple H, it seems like these stories have much more direction to them. Like they're not just like booking on a week-to-week basis and just like seeing how the story pans out, but like it seems like they have a logical start and finish for where they want to go. And you know, tonight it was like, are they going to deviate from that story or not? Turns out they're still keeping with their stories, but man, like, you know, what a gift if that was not the case and Sammy just happened to be over. And yeah, it's really just like one of those like amazing things that happens in professional wrestling where like somebody gets over and it's like, oh, the pay-per-view's in their hometown. It's like, oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I think they were kind of gambling on either Zayn or Kevin Owens, because they announced that the Chamber was going to be in Montreal maybe I think 2 or 3 months back or so, and this was when they were still, you know, the Zayn thing was building and they had the Kevin Owens stuff as well. So I think they were kind of gambling on, okay, if it's not Zayn, it's going to be Kevin Owens. We're going to do something at the Chamber. Let's see what happens. And they ended up going with Owens, like last month or something, and now this. The stars were aligned, Mike. Stars were aligned, and we got a good show, or at least the crowd made it that much better of a show.
Yeah, it was outrageous, and yeah, Hogan and The Rock was bad. Sorry, Farmer. It's like, God, the Farmers always have to say something, but yeah, it was not a good match, but it's an all-time legendary great match because of the crowd. It's like there's like in the Hogan Rock match, I put this out. You'll read it in the retro recap when I post it. But like one of the greatest fan, like, you know, there's 68,000 people there, but there's one guy that I just remember clearly. There was this dude, like you know, it's amazing actually almost to watch these matches because like, you know, Hogan and The Rock are doing their thing, and there's nobody with like camera phones, like, you know, like taking pictures and anything like that. But there was one guy who had this newfangled digital camera with him, and every now and then he was like picking it up and like taking this giant brick and pressing buttons. It was like amazing. He was wearing like a you know, what the hell they call those hats, a visor, you know, and a beige shirt. And I just remember him. I remember him that night. He was dead center, front row. Hogan hits the boot on The Rock. Hogan hits the leg drop, and this guy is just coming out of his skin. He just thinks it's over. He just goes, he's counting 1, 2, and when The Rock kicks out, this guy, it looks like when they throw water onto the Wicked Witch, this guy just melts. He could not believe that wasn't the end. It's one of my favorite fan reactions of all time. I really, it's like, I don't know why. Like I never understood like Brock Lesnar guy. I just never did. Like it's like, I don't know. He was just in a shot and then he became famous or whatever. But like that guy and the Undertaker Street guy to me are like my all-time favorite fan reactions ever. Just an incredible moment in time when that happened. I remember watching that pay-per-view live in 2002. Of course, it's like Hogan and the Warrior. It's like when you watched it, back in the day, it was like, oh, that was actually really good. It's like at the end, it's still Hogan versus the Warrior when you watch it in context, and you watch that match kind of like in context. If you just look at it for what they did, it was not great. Hogan had broken ribs and Hogan was being Hogan, but what a match. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Montreal. So let's talk about this show now. A lot happened on this show, but let's just take it from the top. Let's talk about this women's Elimination Chamber match. It was Liv Morgan, Asuka, Carmella, Raquel Rodriguez, Nikki Cross, and Natalya. The winner goes on to face Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Let's start with Jerome. What did you think of this match here?
I was washing dishes during this match. It was boring.
Oh, it wasn't that bad. Actually, it wasn't that bad, Jerome. Yeah.
It was predictable. I thought Asuka. I figured Asuka probably was going to win and go on to face Bianca at WrestleMania, and should probably be the new Raw Women's Champion. I would suspect at WrestleMania. But some of the spots they did were okay, but other than that, it just didn't grab me. I just couldn't get into it. This is the only match I couldn't get into was this one.
Okay, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I actually thought, I'm not the biggest Natalya fan on the planet. It's like I think that she's one of the poorest, most overhyped, professional wrestlers that they've ever had. So it's like people just keep screaming, "Oh, she's good, she's good, she's good." I've never really seen her be good. She does things crisply in the ring, but in terms of being like a full professional wrestling package, no character, no ability to emote or connect with an audience. But tonight, she came out there, like the one thing that I really didn't like was during the entrances, it was like it got old real quick when they were going around like one person get in the pod, and then the next person comes out and gets in the stands in front of the pod and like smacks the glass and all that stuff. All right. But then 3 people come out. Now 4 people come out, and it's like now we have to wait for 5 people to walk around and hit all these pods. It's like when Natalya did it, there was just like, I'm playing an intense wrestler. Now I have to hit the glass. It's like she's so wooden in her acting. I really don't get it. But the people were into her tonight, I guess, because she carries that that lineage from the Hearts. And she, when it starts, she's always like, Daniel's calling her the traffic police wrestler, but he means like traffic cop. She kind of like makes sure that things don't fall apart. She's like that stopgap, with when you have a bunch of, I wouldn't say that anybody in the match was inexperienced tonight, but there's still some people that are doing it for the first time in big spots. Yeah, Natalya like can hold it together. She's always like, she'll never win. I don't think, has she ever had a WrestleMania title match? I can't even remember. I don't know.
Not that I remember. No.
I can't. Maybe like over 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, I don't recall. I have to look it up. I can't remember myself.
Yeah, and Andrew Elder saying that she has that it's a traffic cone or something like that. I think she has the personality of a traffic cone, she. She was like, when it was Liv Morgan and Natalya, actually, I thought it was actually really good action. I was like, wow, this is actually the best that I've seen Natalya in a long time. She's doing well here. But as they started adding more people, especially when, Carmella got in the match, and it's like, I know I have to say it because it's like, if you don't say it, people will be like, oh, but she had this happen. Okay. I'm very happy that she's back with all the stuff that she went through. Good for her. It's great that she's back. She didn't have a great showing tonight, but some of it could actually be blamed on Raquel Rodriguez, like, who was also kind of she looked good at times, but there was a lot of stuff where it was just like, okay, I'm setting up a spot, I'm waiting. There was a couple things that were just like mistimed. Like for example, when I think it was Raquel and Natalya on the ropes, she knocks Natalya off the ropes. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was Liv Morgan that was waiting around, but she was just like, she was there forever before Liv Morgan came off the top of the pod. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's an impressive move when it's done, but it's like, it takes me right out of it. Like when I'm waiting, when somebody's just like standing there, like waiting for a spot to happen. And the second was that Tejana bomb that she was going to do on, I think she was going to do it on Asuka, and Carmella chop blocked her. Carmella, I guess she's used to working that regular style match that, all the pretty blonde ladies used to wrestle, where you don't really make any contact with anybody, because she chop blocked her, and Raquel, I don't even think she felt her, and didn't go down until I guess she was like, hey, and then she finally dropped her. I was like, God, that just looked awful.
There was another instance of that with Raquel, actually, with Natalya, where Raquel was on the outside of the ring. I believe it was Liv Morgan was like outside with her, and then Raquel's just standing there, and Natalya's in the ring, and Natalya hits her from behind, and then Raquel just stood there solid for 5 seconds, no sold it, and then she like just turned around, surprised that Natalya was there. And it wasn't a hit of like, when a wrestler gets hit and they like hulk up or power up and they don't feel it. It wasn't that. It was she got hit from behind and there was no reaction. And that match, the crowd was so into it from the start, but it got so bad after, like you said, Mike, after Liv Morgan and Natalya. A lot of mistakes. I don't like to use the word botches, but a lot of mistakes in the ring, a lot of instances where there was no contact that was made, some weird selling. A lot of stuff was choreographed, which is fine, but it came off overly choreographed.
Yes, that's the term for it. It's like, like you watch like what happened in the men's Elimination Chamber, and then you juxtapose it to like what happened in that women's chamber. It's like, like I wish that they could take like a page, from like from that. It's like everything seems like everybody's like, oh, I have to have a spot. I have to get my stuff in. And it most always feels like a choreographed dance when the women are in there, and then you like watch like the men's version of things, and it's just like, oh, well, it's like it just seems like they're in an actual fight where things happen. Like for example, the Bronson Reed thing tonight, where I forget who it was, but I think it was Gargano. I think he went to go avalanche Johnny Gargano through the pod plexiglass, and it didn't break. And all night the crowd had, like whenever something happened, they chant one more time, and usually they'd get obliged. But Bronson Reed's like, well, like this is not like, like I'm not treating this like it's like, just like a thing where I just do my spots and, yay me. And it has to fit in the context of the match and my character. And he told the people to go stick it and just moved on. Okay, the spot didn't work out, move on to the next one. It's like that's the difference. It's like, they're play fighting and the guys are play fighting too, but they make it a lot less obvious. And that's why I could not get into this match. I was flabbergasted when somebody was like, oh, this is one of the best women's matches I've seen in years. I'm like, well, have you watched a women's match in the last month? Like a lot of years?
Yeah, it was worse live, because there might have been some stuff that you guys may have missed on the show because the camera cut and went to something else, and it goes to something else. Live, it nearly sucked the energy out of the crowd towards the end. It really, really did. Luckily picked up in the next match, but yeah, it was not a great chamber match. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was also weird that it was like, it really took a long time for it to kind of get going. Of course, you have to wait for the the people to come in, and the match can't really end until everybody gets in, so it has to go a little time. But once everybody got in the ring, it was like elimination. It's like rapid fire eliminations, and then it was just like, oh, it's down to Asuka and Carmella. I wonder what's going to happen here. Like what the hell happened? Like they were given all this time to get the match going, and it was just like rapid fire eliminations. It was like, really? Like, what did they get their time cut? Weird.
At least the right person won. And
Yes.
Asuka, I don't know how she is in other cities. I know Montreal's very peculiar in that sense, very different. But Montreal loved Asuka. Like her entrance when she came out, if you compare her to others in that match, Asuka was head and shoulders the clear fan favorite in that one. And the crowd was very happy that she won.
Like when she came out in the makeup at Royal Rumble, wow, that reaction was just outrageous. And since then on Raw, really she's been getting great reactions everywhere else. It's like it's like the person who's booking the show right now kind of knows how to book Asuka, because they've done it before and made her into and she was a monster under Triple H and the old NXT. And this is kind of like again, like how many people, it's like how many talented people are on this roster right now that are having that are getting a second chance at a first impression. Asuka seems like one of those people once again, where it's like, Vince is like, oh, she's Japanese, so she's got to spit the mist and and just shout incoherently, and that's how we'll get over. That'll do it. That'll do it. And instead, it's like, okay, she doesn't have to talk. She can let her facials and her makeup do the talking and her wrestling. And wow, people are connecting with that. That's outrageous.
Unfortunately, there were two times where I think of Asuka in WWE, not NXT, but WWE, and it pops up. And Daniel's right, Triple H has saved a lot of careers.
Look at the Judgment Day tonight. The reaction. Judgment Day was a floating turd. Now look at them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very different. The first instance, I mean, again, this was back when Vince was booking, but wasn't it Asuka won the Rumble, and then that was taken away from her when Ronda showed up? Or am I completely missing?
Yes, yeah, in 2018. I was there. That's the night that Ronda Rousey debuted. It was just like, oh, like Asuka won the Rumble, and wow, it's a big deal. And then got all the heat taken away from her by Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey made no sense. And let's not forget too, it's Asuka made that Performance Center interesting with her promos, and she saved. I'm not gonna say saved, but you get what I mean. She just
made it tolerable.
Made it tolerable. She really made it tolerable. Unfortunately, that's what I remember Asuka about. When I think of Asuka in WWE, that's what I think of.
Yeah,
Thunderstolen by Ronda Rousey and Performance Center.
Right. Kind of acting like a clown. I mean, like there was like, and really not a lot of like. I'm trying to think of like any true standout performances from Asuka. Like I think her best performance that she had was against Charlotte Flair at that WrestleMania where her streak was broken.
The opening match, if I'm not mistaken, at that WrestleMania. That was solid.
Yeah. Or I think it was it was either the opening or like one of the first few matches on the show. Yeah. I remember recapping that match. I was just like, oh my, like it was phenomenal. I mean, like that's Charlotte Flair is. I know a lot of people don't like her, but she is what she says she is, and she has been for years. That to me was like one of the best matches on that WrestleMania, one of the most memorable matches on that WrestleMania. And of course it was in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, or the Superdome, brother, where streaks just go to die, apparently. Undertaker losses there too.
Oh man, don't remind me.
I know. Yeah, this was not the greatest chamber match that I've ever seen, for sure. But Asuka winning is the right move, and I think that her and Bianca Belair are going to have a hell of a match at WrestleMania. Yeah. And speaking of WrestleMania, this next match with Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley is going to determine who's going to have the unenviable task of facing Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh, Yeah, that. I mean, I was recapping SmackDown last night, and when Wyatt said that, I'm like, what the? Why? Why? I mean, Lashley is just kind of recovering. They're slowly putting him back, I think, with MVP, and maybe they're putting the Hurt Business back together. Why do you want to throw him with Bray Wyatt? Like, what's the point of that? But anyways,
I'm lost on it.
Yeah.
I'm lost on it.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar was super over in Montreal.
Wow, massive. So was Lashley. So was Lashley. I mean, at
Was
least
he?
live, anyways. Yeah, live he got a very big pop, very big pop. And then, but Lesnar's Lesnar, man. Lesnar is an attraction. Whether I know people hate him, people hate his style of matches and this and that. Lesnar can go, if need be. Lesnar can go, and if the rumors are correct that we're getting Lesnar against Gunther at WrestleMania, sign me right up. Sign me right up. That's gonna be a freaking classic. Something that this match wasn't, unfortunately. This was
Yeah, this match. So just to recap what happened real quick. Of course, it's your typical Brock Lesnar match where it's just a lot of quick finishers. You know, a couple spears, a couple F5s, maybe a suplex or two. But Bobby Lashley was getting the better of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, who's now on the back end of his career, it looks like. And it looked like Lashley had him beat with the Hurt Lock. He tried to flex out of it, but Bobby Lashley was too strong, kept it on. So the only way that Brock Lesnar could save face and not have to tap out or pass out was to low blow Bobby Lashley right in front of the referee, and that caused a DQ. So in the end, even though Bobby Lashley's the winner, he's probably going to be the loser because he's going to have to face Bray Wyatt in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, glow in the dark zombie match or something like that at WrestleMania. Kind of weird.
That's gonna. And the worst part about that, and no disrespect to Bobby Lashley because he's really grown on me in the past couple of years, Lashley cannot cut a promo to save his life. And if he's not with MVP, that means we're getting Bray Wyatt cutting promos to help build this Cinnamon Toast lightsaber glow in the dark match.
You know, I'm kind of kidding about the Cinnamon Toast thing, but I don't think so. I think there might be another sponsored match. Jerome, what's going on with the sponsored matches here?
Money. Lots of money. Stupid gimmick matches. I mean, that whole thing with Bray Wyatt and LA Knight at the Royal Rumble was a joke. I mean, that was just like, why? Just it had no purpose. It served no purpose, just so that Bray Wyatt could get over. That was really what all it was about to me. LA Knight's a waste of talent. I'm sorry, what was that?
Did he get over actually, though? It's like,
well, no, not really, but that was their intent. That was WWE's intent, and and LA Knight's just a waste of a talent. And so I don't know what they're going to do with him. Send him back to NXT, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because he was like super over, and now like Roy, like on SmackDown, LA Knight, like what's he doing now?
Yeah. Nothing really, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to continue this program between Lashley and Lesnar one more time. I was thinking maybe WrestleMania, but I don't know. Maybe they're going to do something to lead up to the, who's going to face Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania for the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruity Pebbles, whatever they want to call it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, tonight was like one of those like weird things because Bray Wyatt kind of called his shot on SmackDown where he said, whoever survives Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, I'm going to face, I'm going to target, presumably at WrestleMania. It's like, I went into this thinking like, oh, okay, we're going to get like either there will be like a definitive finish. Like they kept saying, this is the rubber match. This is, they're both even 1-1 and who's going to win. And I was like, all right, well, someone's going to get pinned here. So, somebody else will, one of them will definitively face Bray Wyatt. So I was like, oh, I'm sure it's going to be Bobby Lashley. I cannot imagine that somebody's going to go up to Brock Lesnar and say, you're working against Bray Wyatt. And Brock Lesnar's like, okay, I'm going to show up to WrestleMania and I'm really excited about this. There's no way. There's no way that Brock Lesnar is sitting there thinking like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to advance my character.
Yeah. Now, Raw will be interesting on Monday because I wonder what storyline-wise they're going to do with Brock Lesnar attacking officials. So that'd be be interesting to see how that comes across.
I thought the same thing too, but like at the same time, like one I forget. I'm sorry. One I think it was Roy. I think you said that Bobby Lashley can't cut a promo to save his life. I was like, okay, yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. So I was like, okay, they're going to beat Brock Lesnar here because there's no way that Lesnar would want to work with Bray Wyatt. I went into that with that mentality that Brock Lesnar is definitely losing because he does not want to work with Bray Wyatt. So how did they do it? I mean, they took like the lamest way to go about doing it by far. A horrible, lame way, the low blow and the DQ. Of course, I love the Brock Lesnar destruction at the end of everything. Like I like that his music hit and he's like, I'm not done yet. He picks up Chad Patton and kills him again, the referee. But I was like, okay, this is a good chance for them to reform the Hurt business. Like now this is the time where MVP and Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander are going to come out, attack Lesnar, and that's what's going to cause him to lose instead. But no such luck there. So it remains to be seen if and when the Hurt business is getting back together. They certainly are teasing the hell out of it. But like Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. I'm sorry, Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania looks like. Whoa.
It's not one I think many people want to see. And I'll tell you what though, I think I think a lot of people were pissed off at that ending. A lot of people were just not happy. General Mills Monster Cereals.
You think that Sami Zayn being caught in a mousetrap last year put people up in arms. I can't imagine what's going to happen to Bobby Lashley this year.
I don't know, man. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why Lashley of all people. Like, do they think he could survive, his character could survive an assassination on air? Like, I don't get it. It's no one has come out looking decent against Bray Wyatt. We've said it in the past. We'll say it again.
Nobody ever. No one, especially after once the Fiend thing happened.
Oh my god!
Seth Rollins went from being one of the hottest baby faces in the company in 2019, to facing Bray Wyatt, crying because he was so afraid of the Fiend, and then having to turn heel like a month later because he was so dead. And it took him a long time to recover from that. I mean, of course, you throw in the pandemic in there too, and all the goofy crap that they tried in the Performance Center, like poking Rey Mysterio's eye out. It took a long time for Seth Rollins to get any type of momentum back.
Yeah, took him some time to recover. Who knows?
Yeah, Strowman went from being champion to fired. They saw no value in him anymore. After, do I blame Bray Wyatt for that? I don't know if it's totally fair, but what the hell? For the purpose of my argument right now, yes, I blame Bray Wyatt. He took away all of his momentum. Damn it.
Look, hopefully, we're still about a month and a half away from WrestleMania. So hopefully, this is a very short feud that plays out the next 3 weeks or something. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, though, Mike, you're
with Roy Nemer here.
You're not going to be very happy with that. That means Fiend is going to be on Raw.
Well, it could also mean that Bobby goes over to SmackDown.
I'll welcome
They'll
that.
swap.
I don't mind. I'll welcome
go back
that. But
great, we'll send Rey Mysterio back, and we'll send Bobby Lashley to you. It'll be great. You're gonna love it. You'll love it. Bobby in the Hurt business.
Didn't we already switch? Wasn't I getting Alexa Bliss or something?
I can't remember. Somebody got traded. Oh, yeah, I think we got like Maximum Male Models or something like that. Thanks. That's great. So excited to recap that.
Yeah. Well, they're still on SmackDown. But yeah.
We'll see. Weird finish. I just thought it was that was like very, very lazy. But again, Brock Lesnar destroying people, that's always fun to watch. So WrestleMania is going Hollywood again in 42 days. Well, now it's 12:30 on the East Coast, and now it's 41 days until WrestleMania 39 happens. They're going Hollywood again. Last time they went Hollywood, they had one of the greatest PR schemes in wrestling history, with the superstars doing different movies, like Undertaker doing Dirty Harry, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Triple H and Braveheart, the great John Cena and JBL in the Few Good Men scene. And what other ones were there? There's the Taxi Driver.
Wasn't there a Pulp Fiction or something?
There was a Pulp Fiction one with Booker T and somebody else. I think was it Rob Van Dam? I can't remember. But that was so good. Booker T was definitely in that. All time great stuff. That we still watch it to this day. Like when they've been showing these like retro commercials, I'm like, wow, that was so good. That was such a great movie. Well, tonight they came out with the first one, and then they showed like previews of the ones coming up, where one of them was going to be Roman Reigns as Joe Pesci and Goodfellas doing. Am I funny to you? I mean, what? You think I'm a clown? You think I'm laugh? You make you laugh? Yes. Kurt Angle and Harry Met Sally. Pulp Fiction was Booker T and Eddie Guerrero. That's what it was.
Steve Austin did Gladiator.
Steve Austin did Gladiator. Yes. Triple H was Braveheart with Ric Flair, and that donkey was hilarious. Unbelievable. Good stuff. Tonight we had the first one of hopefully a string of these coming out, of Seth freaking Rollins as Joaquin Phoenix's The Joker. And then they randomly threw Becky Lynch in there doing like a Batman impression, which I thought was a little weird. I'm sorry. I didn't like that part of it, but Seth dancing around as Joker, I was like, this is great. This is really, really great. I guess they had to put them together because they're husband and wife. I thought they did. I thought Seth and Becky had a great Applebee's commercial. I didn't think this was great with the two of them. I didn't like her doing the Batman thing, but Seth was awesome as the Joker here. I don't know. Jerome, what were your thoughts on this? Did you did you see the Joker movie?
I haven't seen the Joker movie.
Very good.
But I thought the whole thing with Becky and Seth, it was silly, but it's their way to promote WrestleMania and for WrestleMania going to Hollywood, and I'll be looking forward, I guess, to seeing what else they pull out of this. I'm sure they're going to do a Top Gun Maverick or something. I mean, I'm sure that's good. I'm sure they're going to do current movies as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see like if I can find anything else, because they definitely showed something where they showed a whole bunch of clips of all the commercials, but literally all I can remember. Oh yeah, and they had Eugene as Forrest Gump. That I remember too. But yeah, they had another one where they showed like a whole bunch of clips of like the upcoming ones, and one of them was definitely Roman Reigns and Goodfellas. I just can't remember. I can't remember. I'll see if I can find it for later. But yeah, good stuff. So again, that was an all-time great PR scheme, and I'm glad they're going back to it. Mixed tag team match, the Judgment Day of Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley with Dominic Mysterio, who, in terms of people being hated, I think it's like in Montreal, I think it was Roman Reigns and Dominic Mysterio, top two.
Did it come off that loud on
They
stream?
hated Dominic. It sounded like, oh my God, the whole bunch of FU Dominics. And I mean, like, he ran to the back and people were so happy to see him gone. And then he came out and they were just so pissed to see him again.
Ultimate heel. Look, if you want to get someone over as a babyface or as a heel, bring him to Montreal. They'll the fans will take care of that for you, for the bookers.
Dominic Mysterio has gotten over in one of those like old school ways where people really hate him. They're mad at him for attacking Ray. Really like I noticed that this thing really picked up after that Thanksgiving thing where he attacked Ray at his home, and it really that video kind of went viral a little bit, because when he came back to Raw that next week, they really were just like so pissed at him. And then the Christmas angle happened where he got arrested and he came out as prison dom. People just want to see this guy just get his ass handed to him. And what an incredible build they're doing to get to, hopefully they get to Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. I can't wait to see how they do it. I can't wait to see how they figure out how are we going to get Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio in the same ring at the same time at WrestleMania. I can't wait for that story to play out. But man, Dominic, he had a little of that Memphis flair where he just he was really milking it. He was really working the crowd tonight. Just like an unbelievable ringside guy tonight. Jerome, what did you think of Dominic Mysterio in this match? And he was even in the match.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they pulled the trigger at Clash of the Castle and turned Dominic heel. He has been great as a heel. He's a little antagonist. He's one you want to just reach into the screen and just choke him to death. I thought he's great. The whole Valentine's Day thing they did with Rhea Ripley and Ray and Angie Mysterio, that was classic stuff. I enjoyed that. But yeah, no, Dominic's. I mean, he's a great heel, and I thought this for me that this match was the fun. Despite the botch that happened with the pin with Edge, I mean that was just it happened. But this match was really fun. Dominic was fun. Finn Balor, I don't like him, but he was fun tonight. Rhea Ripley, oh my gosh, she's great. I wasn't a fan of her at the beginning, but since they put her in this Judgment Day faction, she's great. I mean, and it was interesting though that Damian Priest didn't come out for this match. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But oh my gosh, Beth Phoenix and Edge they were so over tonight, and that crowd was hot. And I'm sure, Roy, it was twice as loud in person for for Beth and for Edge.
Yeah, what was it like the reaction for Edge and Beth Phoenix, Roy?
Loud.
Loud,
very, very loud. The fans were behind. Look, obviously he's Canadian. He's from Toronto. I wasn't expecting this match to be that good. Maybe again, it was the effect of the crowd hating Dominic. There was an instance during the match that we'll say another mistake in there, not a botch, but another mistake that happened. But you know what? Again, the crowd loved it. And I feel like no matter how bad, and this was a good match, so don't get me wrong, but no matter how bad a match is, if the fans are red hot, that's it. The match is automatically good.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get Edge and Finn Balor at WrestleMania, but I'm thinking maybe that might happen. But I'd sure like to see Dominic and Ray at WrestleMania.
100% Dominic and Ray at WrestleMania. I don't know if they can close the door on this Edge and Finn Balor thing yet. It's like, yeah, he did beat him tonight, but what else do you do with Edge at WrestleMania? I mean, look, WrestleMania is a month and a half away still, but he was like this is a great storyline, and the Judgment Day is just so super super hot right now. But like an Edge is like the perfect foil for them because he created them. It's like, what do you do with Damian Priest now that he didn't win the United States title tonight? I think Edge is still got to go with them. I don't know. But then again, there was news announced on the press conference tonight. Austin Theory came out and issued an open challenge for Monday Night Raw for the United States Championship, and then when Edge was doing his thing, he accepted the open challenge. So I don't know, maybe. But then again, Austin Theory is probably facing John Cena at WrestleMania. But is this a way that Finn Balor comes out and costs Edge the match or something like that? I don't think this is the last that we'll see of Edge in the Judgment Day. I think we got one more blow off at WrestleMania, perhaps.
Well, I mean, that's going to be interesting with Edge because he's been, honestly, since coming back for like the third time, his return.
He's injured way too much. He even made a joke about that on Raw. He's like, nobody's had more comebacks than I have.
Yeah, exactly. No, he did. And he's only really ever feuded with the Judgment Day, if I'm not mistaken, since coming back.
In the last year, yeah.
In the last year. So what else is he gonna do? What else do you put him with?
Yeah, well, I think initially it was like, he started off against AJ Styles last year, and that, that was when he was like doing like, hot topic Edge for whatever reason. I don't know. It's like just he was trying something new, and it just didn't work, and they broke that up real quick. Thank God. Yeah, but since then it's been strictly Judgment Day, strictly. But it's like they've gone this far. What's one more match? It's like how are you going to build something up in the next like month and a half that'll have more of a rich storyline going into it than this? It's like, yeah, okay, we did the mixed tag, but Edge has still never beaten Finn Balor one-on-one, because he quit to Finn Balor in Extreme Rules. I still think we might see it one more time. We'll see what happens.
Guys, I hate to say this. I gotta get going.
No, please. That's okay.
Sorry, guys. I just some stuff, but this was fun. This was a fun show. Honestly, I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Well, the Elimination Chamber, that is, as well. Not just this show for sure, but the Elimination Chamber. I'm gonna have to watch it probably tomorrow. See what gives, how some of the reactions played out on on television.
All right, before you go, what did
Yeah.
you think of the finish of the Sami Zayn match?
Look, it was predictable, controversial, predictable. I think they did the right thing. I know people have their opinions. Zayn should win, split the belts, night 1, night 2, or Zayn this, and I get it. I totally get it. But if we're looking at it from the bigger standpoint, which is Cody Rhodes and his story and what they're going to do moving forward, it makes the most sense to have Cody face Roman at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that's a money story all day long.
Yeah.
In terms of like they've built that beautifully. There's a lot of questions that I have about it, but yeah, I was curious to see what you thought being live there. Like what was the crowd like after he lost?
Massive boos, but that was quickly saved by Kevin Owens.
Okay. Anything special happened after the show went off the air?
Honestly, no. Well, I don't know when the show went off the air.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know when the show went off the air. No, I don't believe so. I mean, Owens kind of beat the crap out of everybody.
Yeah.
And I left shortly after that, just because traffic was absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
But no, I don't believe. I spoke to a couple of my friends that were there, and I don't think we missed anything off air.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Roy, thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit, man. You've had a long day.
Thank you guys for having me. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jerome. Thanks, everybody in the chat. I'm going to keep watching. I just, you know how it is, man. I just got home wrestling. I got to shower. I gotta eat. I got to get something.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. Take care. We'll see you at WrestleMania.
For sure. Take care, guys.
Be well, buddy.
Bye. Thanks, you too. Bye.
All right. That was Mr. Roy Nemer. He was there in person tonight. Wow, what a show to go to. This was such a good one. Really, just be part of that crowd. Like there's not a lot of crowds that like I can really think back to in the last like couple years that have been like as rabid as like Montreal. I think back to like that crowd for the very first All Out in 2018, and like that's easily probably the loudest crowd that I've ever been a part of. But I think that was like another one that was like all-time great crowd. They were there. They really wanted to see this, endeavor succeed, and kind of willed it into a company that turned into AEW. Really, like that reaction, from those people kind of birthed, what would eventually become AEW, which was a really neat thing too. Was this better than the Philly Elimination Chamber you went to all those years ago? Yeah, that Elimination Chamber. I think that was 2019. That's the night that Brock Lesnar cashed in on Seth Rollins. If I remember correctly, that elimination that Extreme Rules. Oh, was this better than the Philly Elimination Chamber I went to? Oh yeah, definitely better than the Philly Elimination Chamber. Yes. The night, it was. That was the week of the shutdown. Yes. That Elimination Chamber took place the week that the world shut down. Like Victoria and I were, we went to that show and by now, like the coronavirus was like, okay, like we knew it was like a thing, but, we're just like, oh, what the hell? It's like, it's like one case in Seattle. Who cares? We're going to Philadelphia. Big whoop. We went to Philadelphia. We had the time of our lives. That Friday, they told us that school's shutting down and we're not sure when you're coming back. And they did the next week. The next week was 316 day, Austin 316 in the Performance Center. And Victoria and I were doing a post Raw talking about a show that had no crowd a week after we were there. It was like just so surreal. It was so surreal. This show was way better than that Elimination Chamber. Like I think there was we had a tag team Elimination Chamber. It was just like nothing felt like it had any real stakes to it. The only thing that was cool was seeing the Undertaker for the final time. Other than that was it. But Jerome, we got to continue talking here. So you mentioned the botch.
Mhm.
You're so right in what you said. Like, this match was like so much fun. I loved every second of it until that happened. I was like, oh no, that's like all people are going to focus on now.
Yeah.
It was a bad one.
Yeah, Edge put his shoulder up, and Beth Phoenix came in right after that. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah. Like sometimes like these things happen in tag matches where you're waiting for somebody to break up the pin, but usually like, the person getting pinned usually has their eyes open, like they're like, like looking like that to see if the person's going to make it, see if they have to kick out or if the person will make it over.
Yeah.
Edge didn't do that, and the referee, I guess, knew the finish because he was counting. Like, usually, like the referees are trained to call it like it's a shoot, right? But this referee, I guess he knew the ending, and he was like 1, 2, and then he had to put his arm under him, like as if they kicked out. And I was like, oh god, that looks so freaking bad.
Yeah, and so Michael Cole said Beth came in and broke up broke things up. He didn't even acknowledge that that it was a botch, of course. But yeah, like,
well, if they hit it perfectly, they would have showed a replay of it. Like, there was no way that you could salvage that. There was no way. Not the only botch. They botched the brass knuck spot too. Well, that led you right into it. She punched him in the back of the head, and that covers. But that was just a sad moment. But I have to say, like I don't know if you like how much I don't know how much WWE watched when Beth Phoenix was like full time on the roster.
Watched it.
Okay, good. Like, Beth Phoenix, like then was like a real women's wrestler who was having to wrestle a whole bunch of models like Kelly all the time, and it was just like she was in her prime then, allegedly, and never really got to have great matches. Like every now and then she'd face like Natalya, and they could have like a good match. And I remember like she actually had a pretty good feud against Candice Michelle. Candice Michelle was like, to me, was at one point emerging as like, oh, she's going to be a serious player. And then her and Beth Phoenix did like a 2 out of 3 falls match on a pay-per-view, and she broke her collarbone in the middle of the match, and it had to be stopped. And she went away to get healed up and never recovered from that. Like she never got that momentum back, which was a real tragedy. But Beth Phoenix actually got her over to a point where I was like thinking she could be a star. But other than that, she never really got to do anything. And when she retired or whatever, I never really thought much about it. And now that she's like coming back and like doing these one-off matches every now and then, I think she teamed with Natalya at like a WrestleMania 35 for the women's titles, and she looked good in that. She also had that great Rumble appearance where she got busted open and her blonde hair was all red and all that. It was like really, really good stuff. But like tonight, she hasn't wrestled since the Royal Rumble last year with Edge. Tonight, I was like, God, she looks like she belongs. Like she could be more than just like a one-off part-time appearance. Like I wouldn't mind seeing her mix it up a little more frequently with some of the women on this roster. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, she and Rhea had great chemistry in the ring tonight, and even outside the ring with the floor spots, those were great. And Rhea sold those spots really well. But yeah, I mean, maybe Beth has a match at WrestleMania, but I don't know who they put her up against. But yeah, I could see her having another singles match. She did look pretty good. I think she's younger than Edge by a few years, but yeah, she still has it.
Yeah, she really does. Like there, like that one spot, like she's like one person who could really like convincingly take it to Rhea Ripley. Like Rhea Ripley, they've been positioning her as like the modern day China, where she she can mix it up with the guys. Rhea Ripley had that match against Akira Tozawa. It's like, I guess they're experimenting to see if like people would buy into it, her versus a guy. But like tonight, I think one of my favorite spots in the entire match was when her and Rhea were just throwing clotheslines at each other. No one was going down. They were just clubbing away, like sniffing each other. I was like, wow, that was great.
Yeah, some of Rhea's facial expressions were great tonight.
Yeah, she was awesome. When she got hit with the glam slam on the floor, I was like,
yeah,
really, she was awesome. She kind of reminded me a little bit of like Sensational Sherry, like especially at the end when she was all like when they were bringing Balor back, he's like, I hate you, and she was just like with her makeup all a mess, just like screaming. I was just like, she looks so scary. It looked really, really amazing. You know what? Our new AEW Dynamite recapper, Alex Cars, saying Beth versus Rhea at WrestleMania Backlash. I could go for that.
Yeah, I can see
It's
that.
time for that all day long. It's time for that.
Yeah.
There was that glam slam on the floor. Just getting back to that real quick. That scared the daylights out of me because Bianca Belair hit Becky Lynch with a glam slam in the ring at SummerSlam, and that's the move that busted Becky Lynch up, and she had to be out for a while. That's the move that busted her shoulder up pretty good. And she had, and props to Becky Lynch for continuing that match. But like when she was going to hit that on the floor, I was like, oh my god! Like I was thinking, like, oh my god, this is her WrestleMania right here. Like if she gets botched, oh my, like, or if she gets injured here, it's like, oh my god. But luckily she got out of it a-okay. Rhea Ripley is playing on another level right now. You think about that first WrestleMania that unfortunately got derailed by the pandemic against Charlotte Flair, and the finish of that was all incorrect. It should not have been that way. And then the next year she comes back. It's a second chance at a first impression against Asuka, and that didn't really go her way. And now she's getting a third chance at a first impression. And with Triple H reviving the Judgment Day and bringing them back from the dead, and getting her over to the point where it's like, she comes out, she's like she is a star. She gets some of the best reactions of anybody on the show. She's an intriguing character. The way she whispers in Dom's ear, she seems like to be so manipulative, so evil, and she's so strong. It's like, who could take it to Rhea Ripley? I am like so intrigued at everything she does, and I'm really interested to see if they can right that wrong from 2020 against Charlotte Flair. It's going to be something.
Yeah, I just thought, now if Rhea wins the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania, does Judgment Day go over to SmackDown? Because I can't see them breaking up this group. At least not right now.
That it would be a mistake to break them up. It would be a mistake. I'm wondering if maybe she goes with both shows or something like that. Maybe she can go back and forth or whatever, and do her defenses on SmackDown or whatever. But like, it would be a big mistake to break her away from the Judgment Day right now. And she's that the whole thing is just too good. And sometimes you start whittling things away. It's almost like a mistake, to do that. And Andrew's right. At some point there will be a draft. So, and Alex also mentioned Ray's on SmackDown, I thought, and I assume they would eventually move over there for that reason anyway. Or they could say I guess, Judgment Day might move over to SmackDown. Who knows? I hate to lose them though. They really are great on Raw. They really are great on Raw. There's like I watch SmackDown. I'm like, there's really nobody that I'd want to see in elongated spots on Raw, because everything that you do on Raw, whatever they do on SmackDown that works, you have to double the time for Raw, because you have to fill 3 hours instead of just 2.
Right. So yeah. And to Andrew's point about draft, if the company's sold before then, will we even have a draft? Who will be in creative?
I know. It's God. Somebody asked Triple H about the prospect of a sale tonight at the press conference, and he was just like, "Well, it depends on who it's being sold to, I guess, and what they plan to do with it." He goes, "I really like how things are going right now. I like my job, and I like how we're doing it." So it didn't really seem like he was completely on board with a sale tonight. And from the report that you put up about Vince McMahon looking for $9 billion for the company when it's valued at least $3 billion less than he's valuing it.
$6.5 billion. Yeah, that's the market value right now.
Yeah, that's the market value of it. And he's thinking that it's worth even more because of streaming things or whatever at some point. I don't see $9 billion, but when you're talking billions, it's like what's the difference between 9 billion and 6.5 or whatever it is? It's just, other than just pure greed at that point. Geez, I don't think you can make a sale when it's that overpriced. it's like, does Vince even really truly want to make that sale, or was the sale thing just a ruse just to get him back in the company? Who knows?
It might be, or else he's got some NDAs he's got to pay off.
Oh, that too. Maybe that's where the other 3.5 billion comes from, I suppose. I don't know. Men's Elimination Chamber. This one was freaking awesome. Oh my gosh. Austin Theory retains against Seth freaking Rollins, Montez Ford, Damian Priest, Johnny Gargano, and Bronson Reed. I would say, there was a minimum of 4 star-making performances here tonight. What did you think of this one?
Montez, he shined tonight. I mean, he did that Spider-Man type climb on the cage, and it just fell. He just fell. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
That was insane. Like everything, he had to do everything right in order for that to to happen. My God, he is so good. He is so good.
Yeah.
And they did an incredible job tonight on commentary, putting him over as he's the guy that we always talk about, how he has so much potential. Jerome, would you say tonight Montez Ford showed that he's ready to go up to that next level?
Yeah, I think if they broke up the Street Profits, Montez would be the one that would get the biggest push out of the two. And I think he could do really well as a singles competitor, and even maybe hold a championship, not the world title or WWE title, but maybe the US title or Intercontinental title for that matter. But I mean, I'm not a Bronson Reed fan either. I didn't really care much for him as Jonah when he was in Impact, but I mean, he looked good tonight too.
Bronson Reed, he was working in Japan and seemed to really pick up a couple of great tricks, because when he was Bronson Reed in NXT, he was good, but again, it was just like I remember recapping some of his matches, and I was just like, I'm tired of these big guys not acting their size. It was kind of driving me crazy that he was working matches like he was just a regular guy instead of working to his strength. And I remember watching this episode of the Broken Skull sessions with Steve Austin and the Big Show. Did you see that one, Jerome?
Nope, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to go back and watch it. You
got to check it out, because the Big Show, Paul White, of course, is he does not get the credit that he deserves. He's really it took him a long time to get it figured out, and part of that was that WCW just it just makes it, the way that company was structured, it just it brought out the worst in people. And they brought Paul White in there with limited training, made him world champion in his first match, after him and the Zombie humped Hulk Hogan to death, or whatever it was that they did at that Halloween Havoc thing. And he kind of coasted through that WCW career for, about 4 years, not really feeling challenged, I have to continue to grow. He just stayed status quo. And then, because of the Monday Night War thing, his contract came up and WWF signs him. He comes over and, they signed him for a pretty big deal. They signed him for a pretty decent deal. And I think part of his contract was I have to be in the main event of WrestleMania at some point. He wound up being the WrestleMania at WrestleMania 2000, his only main event at WrestleMania, by the way. And then quickly fell off. Literally the next month, he was doing the showster gimmick at Backlash, and he was Shokishi and this and that, and then he was down in OVW for the next year, basically learning how to be a wrestler again. And Jim Ross was constantly on the Ross reports punishing him, saying he's got a ton of potential, but potential doesn't buy the groceries. I remember reading stuff like that. But when Big Show figured it out, when somebody finally sat him down and was like, this is how big guys work. You're not working as a big guy. You're working as a guy who just happens to be big. When Big Show figured that out, he had an incredible second half of his career. And it really kind of came to a head big time no pun intended, like when he was facing, like when he came back in 2008 and did the Floyd Mayweather stuff. And then he was always kind of hovering around the main event scene ever since then. I think about that feud he had with Braun Strowman and the feud he had with Brock Lesnar and the Undertaker stuff. And Undertaker really teaching him how to work like a big man. He had a lot to say. And, he kind of talked about that journey on the Broken Skull sessions. And wow, what a long way for me to get back to Bronson Reed. I'm sorry to have you sit there and listen to this, Jerome, but that I felt that way when I was watching Bronson Reed in NXT. I was like, God, he needs to get the Big Show treatment. And it looks like he figured that out in Japan because even like the monster facials where he's like doing those things, like when he pins people, he just looks like such a badass right now. Holy crap. Like he had some really great moments in this. Really, really great moments.
Yep. I think we get definitely Seth Rollins and Logan Paul at WrestleMania. That was great. Logan Paul coming in and clotheslining Seth, giving him the curb stomp. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the heat he got from the Montreal fans were just unbelievable.
That was fantastic. Logan Paul is an incredible professional wrestler. I don't care what anybody says. You talk, Mike has bad takes on things, and I hate it. That is not a bad take. He is a phenomenal professional wrestler. Montez Ford, star-making vehicle tonight. That spot that you talked about, Jerome, amazing. Bronson Reed, Damian Priest looked great in this too.
Yeah, I'm not really a big Damian Priest fan, but he was good tonight.
He was really
good. Yeah.
And Johnny Gargano, finally, he's been around for a couple months now. It's kind of like he's just existed. And again, we talked about like Bray Wyatt, being like a kind of like a catalyst that brings people down. Dexter Lumis does that tenfold. And ever since I started like putting Johnny Gargano with Dexter Lumis, and I know like there's a story from him with Lumis in NXT, but it's not translating to the main roster. That ain't it, Jack.
Still not so much.
Tonight was at least the best chance that he's had so far to show off the Johnny Wrestling thing.
Yeah.
He looked pretty darn good in this, and I thought that was like a really smart move to start him off with Seth Rollins in the match to just kind of show what he can do, and that he's that he could be a major player if he gets more opportunities like that. So that was really cool. Austin Theory, I thought he was dead at that Money in the Bank cash, and I really did. I was like, I cannot believe how horrible that was. But really, it was just like, look, forget the Money in the Bank thing. He's we're not beating Roman Reigns, so it doesn't even make sense to just continue putting him out there. Let's get rid of the super briefcase and let's reset him. And that's what they did. I just couldn't see it at night because it was so bad.
Yeah, but no, I mean the Austin Theory reset. I think it's been a good reset for him.
It's actually kind of an incredible reset because he had that like stupid Vince McMahon typical we're gonna turn it, we're gonna make him into a millennial and have him take selfies all the time because that's all they do. It was such a one-dimensional character. Like so many of these people. What's that, Jerome?
It was a stupid character.
Yes,
I like this new Austin Theory character better.
Me too, because there's more depth to the character now. It's like like he actually has a purpose and a reason for being there rather than just like taking selfies. There were so many one-dimensional characters up until July 2022, and now there's like so many people have depth to themselves now. It's like, wow, I guess that's what happens when you have when you flesh out stories for people and don't hotshot everything and let stories breathe and play out, because we're getting some of the best stuff that they've done since the Attitude Era for real. Really in terms of having a roster that's like fleshed out and everybody has a purpose and you understand what some people's purposes are. That's a huge improvement, because we joke all the time in our Wrestleview group chat where it's like, what is a Dolph Ziggler? What is a this? What is a that? Now it's like, you can answer that question for some people. Like we know what their purposes are. So kind of really awesome. And Seth Rollins, of course. Logan Paul, is it a better Buckshot Lariat, then Hangman Page.
Oh, it's funny.
I think he does it better than Hangman Page.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He did it great tonight. I mean, he didn't miss a step. Came right in there and boom, and then followed up for that great curb stomp, and got that great heat. And Logan Paul, I mean, he's better as a heel anyway, and so I'm glad they went that route with him. And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out with WrestleMania. I'm sure that Seth's going to go over unless they have Seth lose and they play it out one more time at the WrestleMania Backlash and Seth wins there. So just to get that heat for Logan Paul,
I'd be very curious to see what they do with it. That's gonna be another one of those. Based on whatever direction they go, it's either going to be much loved or much maligned, based on the decisions they make on who's going over. I actually think that whatever night Logan Paul and Seth Rollins is on, I think that has a chance to be the show stealer of whatever night they're on. Yeah. Logan Paul's that good.
Yeah, he's great.
His match against Roman Reigns is one of the best title matches of Roman Reigns' run so far. Like he's had some good ones, but that was one of the best, really, in terms of like I went in there expecting nothing, and they really gave you something. It was like you knew he wasn't going to win, but like how did they get to that point? Like they made it really entertaining, and he stepped up as like a big time star in that match. Holy crap! And it's like it's so easy for like a guy like him to just come in and just like collect a paycheck and say like, oh well, I brought influence to WWE. They should be thanking me. And whatever I give them is good enough. But he's in there. He really wants to be the best. He really wants to be good at this. That's it. Like that's why it's like him and Bad Bunny are like maybe two of the best celebrity wrestlers ever to me.
Yeah,
and Mr.
Yeah, no, I mean Logan did some. I mean, he did some good stuff at the Royal Rumble and at SummerSlam with the Miz, and I was really impressed.
Yes, yeah. The Miz had a good match. I'm just stunned by that. I better make sure Victoria's here. Better make sure. Finally, yeah, please don't. Even though it's just kind of memorialized forever. Main event time. I'm back and forth on this. Like I didn't even really, usually, I put the tweet up, about like what I thought about it, but I was really like back and forth because like I loved it for the majority of the match, but I was kind of like bummed that they just like even though like this was like a huge match and the crowd was next level, that it kind of just felt like a regular Roman Reigns match.
Yeah.
What did you think of it? I'm back and forth on it because the crowd reaction was outrageous.
It was the crowd was hot. Sami Zayn's wife at ringside was great. I noticed that. Awesome. Yeah, I noticed that when Roman came and he was antagonizing her with Sami right there at the barricade, I saw that Sammy's daughter starting to cry. So it was legit. It was legit. I mean, she wasn't acting; it was legit. But it was a disappointing ending, but not surprising because they're just going to do. They're going with Cody and Roman at WrestleMania, which got me thinking with the ending with Kevin Owens coming out. Could we see Zayn and Owens challenging the Usos at WrestleMania and winning the tag team championships? I was thinking that at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that is the direction they're going to go, and like I had heard that rumor for a long time that like it's going to be Owens and Zayn versus the Usos, but I was like, God, he's so over that.
I know.
I don't know how you can just throw it was like I think back to like WrestleMania 30 when it was like, oh, everybody wanted Bryan Daniel in the main event, but they were like hard pressed. It's going to be Bryan Daniel versus Sheamus for the United States title at that event, and until the fans made them do it. Essentially, they forced them to do it, and they forced them to make that change. This, I guess like you could say that this was like a smart way to go about it, where it's just like, okay, we're going to give them the match a month early, and we'll give him some hope, but we'll just make it like a regular Roman Reigns match. I mean, like, you can't, like, everybody's like, oh, I wonder if Cody Rhodes is going to be hated, because of this. It's like, luckily, like, if it was under Vince, like, I think he would have just like buried Sami Zayn, somehow he would have, like, Sami Zayn would have just been punished for getting over, and that would have pissed the people off. And then Cody Rhodes gets thrown on, for sure. Cody Rhodes gets thrown on.
But yeah, I mean, it's like that. I was hoping we wouldn't see the typical Vince McMahon have, the hometown hero get, booked to lose in his own hometown, but we did see that, and it's like, But
we also saw it at Clash of the Castle with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, I know. We saw that same thing with.
Even though he's Scottish, they were in Wales, but yeah.
It's close enough, but still, I know. And it's like, but if Sammy had won the title, or titles, I should say, he would have only held him for 6 weeks, because Cody would have, dethroned him anyway. But I don't know. I don't know.
Part of my thinking was like, he's not holding these titles for 900 days to lose at Elimination Chamber. So like, it's like, okay, I knew that Sami Zayn was going to lose, but like, how are they going to work themselves into this loss and make it seem like, like, not like a total waste of time? I don't know if they were totally successful with that, because it was just the same exact Roman Reigns match that you've seen, for
I know, interference from Usos and chair and other
2 ref bombs, Uso interference, chair shots, and at the end he just smashes him with the chair and just pins him, and that's the end of it. It's like, wow, really? That's it?
Right, I know. It's like,
I would have rather at least hit him with a spear one more time and then do it. Like, but he covered him, and the referee wasn't even in the ring yet, so he actually had him covered for like 6 seconds or so before he finally lost him.
But where's Jay fit in all this now that Jay gets speared inadvertently? And I didn't think he was going to show up, because I know he's had issues with being in Canada with his DUI stuff, and so I don't.
I guess they must have struck a deal or something like that to allow it to happen. Where eventually, like, you can make an argument that, like, look, his livelihood requires him to travel, and like, it's like he's repaid his debt to society, and he's got to go on making a living here. So maybe that's the deal they struck. But it could wind up being that, like, this tag title match, if they do it right, with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos, if you kind of tease that, like, Jay still isn't on the Bloodline side, but Sami Zayn speared him so he can kind of get some heat on him for a little bit. If they do this thing where, like, Jay's kind of like back and forth still, and there's a really neat story there, this could main event night 1.
Yeah.
The tag titles.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Jay walks off and leaves Jimmy by himself, and that's it. And 1, 2, 3. I could see that possibly happening.
Yeah, like, I could absolutely see if they play their cards right and do this and do this in an interesting way, that the tag titles could be the main event of WrestleMania night 1. Yeah, because the Bloodline angle, is still super red hot. And at the end, even though Sami Zayn lost, he really had to have the hell beaten out of him in order to finally get the pin. So hopefully, like, they did everything they could to make sure that Sami Zayn stayed over at the end. He still has to lose. But they did as much as they could to put him over without putting him over as a winner.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm going to put it down right now. Tag titles, main event night 1.
Okay. And what I'd like to see, I think we've put this in our chat, is could we see maybe a double turn at WrestleMania where Paul Heyman turns on Roman and Cody aligns himself with Paul Heyman? Because when Cody was in Ring of Honor, he was a heel and he was champion, and he did some great old school Memphis territory stuff that was really antagonistic, and it got under the skin of the fans. And he can really work as a heel. really like him much as a babyface, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know.
We'll definitely see what happens. A lot of people on his side right now. Like if there was, he's smart enough that like if people are starting to turn on him, he might want to push to go in that direction. But right now, there's so much real emotion with the Dusty Rhodes stuff.
I know. It's a good story.
Like, I want to see him win the titles, and just for the Dusty thing. Like they've told that story so well, and still that promo that he had with Paul Heyman on Raw 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was now, that was
that was a gem.
Yeah, that was some of the best stuff that I've seen on Raw in years.
Oh, that was a gem.
Filled with so much real emotion that that's what's going to say that's what's going to help Cody on the road to WrestleMania. You can't be mad at Cody Rhodes. It's not like he's being handed to this. He's another one who was undesirable, like Sami Zayn was undesirable too, and is getting the chance. It's like how does Sami Zayn fit into that? He'll take out another aspect of the bloodline, and the bloodline will probably be dethroned at WrestleMania, hopefully. For the Usos and Roman Reigns, and we can kind of get back to a little more normalcy, I guess, on the shows with the titles. But really good stuff. It's just amazing that it's so refreshing, Jerome, that we just have so many different aspects, for WrestleMania that are viable matches and things that people want to see, and none of them involve bringing in, somebody who is north of 5'0", who used to be a great wrestler.
Right.
No, there's no Gold. They're not relying on Goldberg. They're not relying on The Rock. They're not. Steve Austin was rumored to be having a match. Now he's not doing anything at WrestleMania, most likely. John Cena. John Cena is going to be. He'll probably be the biggest, legend on the show.
Right, and at the Royal Rumble, the surprise entrants weren't a lot of the old retired talent. I mean, they went younger stuff.
Was a hometown guy in Booker T. That was it. He was the only legend that was in it, and even Booker T was like, and Booker T looked great, by the way. He's in great shape, but I forget how old he is. I think he's in his 50s.
He's in his 50s. Yeah.
He is 57. Holy crap!
Wow, he doesn't look like he's 57. He looks good for his age.
He does. But you know what? Booker T was a young guy, when WCW was, getting ready to close up shop. But we forget that WCW closed almost 25 years ago. You could start rounding that out at 25. And that whoever was 30 when that closed up, and there weren't a lot of legends that were under 30 in that company.
Yeah,
everybody's north of 5'0". So there's hardly anybody from that era that isn't close to 60 and really can't go anymore. Booker T said that he got in the ring at the Royal Rumble, and when he was in for maybe 2 minutes, and he's like, it was really difficult, and that was probably my last match ever doing something like that. I'll never do that again, because it was that taxing on him to do that.
Yeah.
So, you have The Rock's got a viable movie career. Batista is done. He's not coming back. It's they got to stop relying on these legends. Steve Austin's going to be 60 or something like that. He looked great in his match against Kevin Owens, but that again, it's just why, we don't need it now. Maybe last year we still needed Austin to sell WrestleMania, but this year, you don't need anybody but the hands that they have now. And it's so nice that they're going with the hands that they have, rather than, oh, well, we screwed up another year, so we'll just bring back a legend just to sell some tickets.
Austin's 58.
Yeah. I want to look that good at 38.
Yeah.
Let alone 58.
Yeah. No, we don't want to have these those guys and gals pull a Terry Funk and still wrestle at 75 and light tables on fire.
Yeah, I know. Oh my god. Daniel's saying I wouldn't mind Cena versus Theory. That'll be the one, and I think Cena will put him over. Cena will absolutely put him over and have no.
Yeah, Cena's 45, and I don't see holding the U.S. title. Not going to happen.
Yeah, and Cena, he has no qualms about putting people over. It seems like now, so we'll see what happens. But there's there's a lot of great stuff, coming up. Like even though tonight kind of ended on a sour note, we're just like, really, like that's it. Like it's the same finish of every other Roman Reigns match that I've ever seen. But still, like it doesn't stop me from really feeling very excited about the build for the next 41 days to WrestleMania. This is probably as excited as I've been on a road to WrestleMania in a long time.
Yeah, I'm wondering if these finishes with Roman Reigns, these same finishes over and over, typical matches, is just to get him that heel heat. So when he is finally beat by by Cody, it's going to be huge, and the fans are going to go nuts. And
right,
it's just
I expect in the Cody match that there will be a ton of ref bumps, and but for almost 3 years, it has it's worked out, in his favor. Yeah. But I think on that night, it's finally going to work against him. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be great.
I'm not a fan of ref bumps, but when they're done right, like tonight, they were done right.
It was done right. I mean, like, it always makes sense in the match, but it's like they do it in every one of his title defenses.
I know.
Has a ref bump, and then the face has him pinned, and there's no referee. It's like, come on.
Maybe Vince Russo was booking that match.
No, because then there would be a referee. It would be a referee on a pole match, and then
right.
Like, come on.
Yeah, he was famous for ref bumps and screw jobs, and he was booking TNA as like so it's like
I cannot understand for the life of me why anybody gives that guy the time of day anymore. I know he has some pathetic, pitiful podcast out there. Daniel Schell with that should be his nickname forever. That's what it should be called forever. I don't understand why people still give that guy a platform, or why anybody even thinks that his opinion is worth listening to. Like, my life is too precious. Like there's so, like I've noticed, like with how quickly my kids are growing up, how precious the fleeting moments are, and I'm not going to spend a single minute of my life on this earth listening to a charlatan like that. I don't understand why people live their lives listening to that guy.
I know.
He's a total loser. The only time he was good was in the Attitude Era, but that's because Vince McMahon was a filter. And Vince, who himself followed some of his worst inclinations, thought that some of the stuff that Vince Russo was doing was crazy and had to be his filter. So you imagine if Vince has put out some stuff through the years that are just total batshit crazy, how bad was the stuff that Vince Russo was suggesting?
That was awful.
Horrible.
Yeah, no, I've actually been listening a little bit more of Eric Bischoff's 83 Weeks, and I've actually liked his analysis on a lot of things. So,
I mean, he's a smart guy, but he's another one where it's just like, he had like one good idea that he really stole from another company, and has coasted on that for years. Now he's really good at knowing business, but in terms of storylines. In terms of storylines and booking professional wrestling, they gave him a chance in 2019. They fired him within like a month. He just was not good. So, he can talk about the business all he wants, but I would not take professional wrestling advice from him either. But anyway, that's not here nor there. I'll take professional wrestling advice from Wilen any day of the week. This guy knows what he's talking about, and he does a great job for the website. So. On that note, we are going to close up shop because it's getting a little late in the evening here, and thank God tomorrow is Sunday. I like these shows on a Saturday. I say it all the time.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, I enjoy the Saturday shows.
Yeah, it's just nice that you still you don't have to think about going to work. Now, I do have to think about going to work, but nobody else really does. So it's pretty good. Yeah. It's nice. Saturday just feels like a night where things are happening. So, wrestling tonight felt like it happening. Yeah. All right, everybody. On that note, I am Mike Tedesco. That's Jerome Wilen. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight for Elimination Chamber. We also thank Roy Nemer for calling in to the show. We'll see you soon. I don't know if I'm doing post Raw yet, but we'll see what happens. Until then, have a good night, and Road to WrestleMania is looking pretty good. Be well. Hey, come on. Where is it? Why is this not ending? Go. See ya.